All right. Good afternoon, Golden Flashes. It's 3 p.m. and welcome to the fall first episode of Talking with Todd for the 2024-2025 academic year. It's really a pleasure to have all 440 of you here today, and I'm sure that number will keep going up as we continue. So today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk for about 15 minutes mostly with some examples of the great work that's going on at Kent State, some of our successes of late. Yesterday, I got some numbers that are somewhat challenging for us in terms of our budget, so I want to share those with you. And then, as always, I'll do my best to answer your questions. You can submit those anonymously. I won't know who submitted them, and I'll do my best to answer them. So, welcome to Talking with Todd. Glad you're here. Let's get started. So I'm going to brag on Kent State University. I've got some notes here. So if you see me looking down, it's just me reading my notes. First of all, we got our capital bill funded by the state. And if you're not familiar with the capital bill, usually every couple of years, the state will make money available to public universities to help them with their infrastructure needs on campus, fixing buildings and the like. Now, this year we received in the capital budget bill $29 million. It's about 2.3 million more than the last biennium. And these will go to several important projects on all of our campuses. So for example, on the Kent campus, we're going to begin replacing the elevators in the library. The elevators in the library are original to the building, meaning they're over 50 years of age. And we need to replace them. We'll start replacing them in part with the funds from this capital bill. Other projects include 10 million for HVAC upgrades and classroom innovations in Whitehall, and 4 million for elevator repairs in buildings other than the library. And I used to know this number on the tip of my tongue, but it's something like we have on the Kent campus 125 elevators, something like that. And we will spend 3.6 million on IT network enhancements. So it's not a given that we were going to get this money. There was some talk in Columbus of not having a capital bill. So kudos to Nick Gattosi and Brady Oxender and government relations for helping deliver that funding. Okay. Want to call good attention to the Division of Research and Economic Development. They run several fantastic programs, including the Undergraduate Research Symposium. And the participation in that Undergraduate Research Symposium grew to 301 students. That's in addition then to a summer program that unit operates, which is the Student Undergraduate Research Experience. That's called SURE. And that's a really great program, again, run by Research and Economic Development, that pairs a professor with an undergraduate student, and then that undergraduate student helps the professor in research. It's a really wonderful opportunity for our undergraduates to engage in generating knowledge, and very much appreciate the work of economic research and economic development. And by the way, our federal research expenditures grew from 16.2 million in fiscal year 23 to 18 million fiscal year 24. So congratulations to Doug Delahanty and his team for that good work. Well, if you have not visited Crawford Hall, I hope on the Kent campus, I hope you will do so soon. It's really, in addition to just being an amazing building, it is a tangible reminder of the power of philanthropy. And literally, we could not have afforded to build this building were it not for a series of very large donations, including Ambassador Crawford's record gift. And speaking of donations, we concluded our Forever Brighter fundraising campaign. Our goal for that fundraising campaign was 350 million, excuse me. Our goal was 350. And in the end, we raised $383 million, including 157 million for student success when we had hoped for 100 million. And the number of our endowed positions on campus went from 5 to 26. Now, if you're not familiar with the world of fundraising, a couple of caveats apply here. For the endowments, we pay out 4% of the endowment's value per year. So if someone gives us in an endowment $1 million, it's not like we spend the $1 million. We spend 4% each year so that we can replenish that amount as an endowment. And then a third of the donations were estate gifts that will begin only upon the death of the donors. Really great work coming out of philanthropy and alumni engagement. You know that we're in the process of reducing expenditures. I'm going to talk more about that in a minute, but I want to thank the Division of Student Life. They were able to in some of the programs that they provide, they were able to rethink other programs, deliver them in a different fashion. Long story short, our student life folks reduced their expenses by $914,000. And in spite of those reductions, the unit's excellence was maintained, and indeed it was recognized by others as the division won the NASPA National Award for Excellence in Student Services. So good for them. Okay, for those of you who were around when President Lester Lefton was our president, you'll remember that President Lefton was fond of saying that enrollment is life. And so kudos to our Division of Enrollment Management for a series of successes during a very difficult year. A difficult year, especially because of the federal FAFSA funding or reporting delays. And so for the Kent campus, we enrolled a slightly larger, very slightly larger freshman class than last year. And in terms of financial accessibility, we continue to enroll over 25% of our students who are eligible for the Flashes Go Further program. And just as a reminder, Flashes Go Further is that program on the Kent campus for our students with the highest levels of financial need, that those students who qualify for that, it means that they will not have to borrow money to pay for tuition and central fees for 4 years. Another thing I want to call attention to in enrollment management and working with our bursar's office, and by the way, I once gave a talk to parents called What the Hell is a Bursar? We have a great bursar and a great bursar's office, and that's where all of the funds that are submitted by parents and students paying tuition, that runs through the bursar's office. Anyway, we went from canceling 2,327 course schedules in academic year 22-23 to just 207 in academic year 2023-2024. What the heck am I talking about? Well, in the past, if a student owed a bill and they had not paid the bill by a certain date, but had already enrolled for the next semester, we would drop their schedule. Then they would pay and they would have to rebuild their schedule. But the problem was a lot of the classes by that point were closed. Long story short, phenomenal work to take that from 2,000 plus schedules canceled to just 207 last year. And again, special and heartfelt thanks goes to our financial aid staff for minimizing the impact of the FAFSA delays. That's really hard to express enough, the great work that came out of that office. I want to thank Vice President Amwaba Gooden and her team for the successful merger of 2 vice presidencies into the new Division of People, Culture, and Belonging. So even while Dr. Gooden and her team were merging 2 former vice presidencies into one, thereby creating efficiencies, even while doing that, the new unit set about improving HR services, human resources services, including reducing the time to fill a vacant position. So kudos to Dr. Gooden and her leadership and everyone working in the Division of People, Culture, and Belonging. And oh, by the way, they also sponsored and continue to sponsor the Dialogue and Difference speaker and conversation series, and we appreciate that. Really good work. And let me just say hello to the now 811 folks on Talking with Todd. Much appreciated. I hope you gain value from our conversations. Okay, as I continue with a few examples of the great work happening at Kent State, I'll say that in terms of the number of employees and percentage of overall budget, academic affairs makes up 2/3 of Kent State. And of course, it's the reason we exist as a university. So congratulations to the College of Arts and Sciences for bringing 3 online programs in-house, saving the university $500,000 a year in external provider fees. So in the past, for those programs, we paid an external provider to help us recruit the students, et cetera. We stopped doing that and we saved $500,000 a year. And kudos to the Office of Global Education. We experienced a notable jump in the number of new international students in the freshman class. Really strong year for international students in the freshman class on the Kent campus. I also just want to say that we increased by 9% the number of Kent State students studying away. That was our largest number since 2017. We know that studying abroad, studying away is a really great boost towards one earning a degree and preparing themselves to succeed after graduation. We spent $700,000 in need-based scholarships to reduce the cost of studying abroad. So I especially appreciate the work coming out of the Office of Global Education. Okay, I think I'll stop my good news remarks there. It's been really a great year at Kent State. That is just the tip of the iceberg of some of the wonderful things that are happening at the university. Really appreciate all 827 of you on this call, and I appreciate all of our students, faculty, and staff. I did get numbers yesterday from Mark Politaico, our Senior Vice President for Finance and Administration, that reminds us that we have our ongoing financial challenges. Now, I'm only going to speak about this for just a few minutes, but please know that in October, we will devote the entire Talking with Todd to our budget situation. I did that last year. I'll continue to do that this year, communicate as transparently as possible how we're doing, what we're doing, and answer your questions. I did want to today focus more on our successes. I do, though, want to share with you that we finished the past fiscal year 24, with a $10 million deficit. Our fiscal years, as a reminder, end on June 30th. And then the new fiscal year that we're in, fiscal year 25, began on July 1st. You know that my goal every year with our budget is to finish with somewhere around a 1% positive fund balance on a roughly $675 million budget, right? So that's somewhere around $6.5–7 million to the good. But we didn't do that. In fact, we went the opposite way. We finished the year with a $10 million deficit on a $675 million budget. And this was very disappointing for me. And it's very disappointing, not because I'm disappointed in the work we're doing. It was very disappointing to me, not because I'm disappointed in any individuals. It was disappointing because I know how hard we are working to balance our budgets, and we didn't do it this year. And we have to do it every year, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. So what do we do with a $10 million deficit? We take from our reserves and we pay the $10 million. That means we have $10 million less earning interest to help us pay for other things. So we'll dip into the one-time reserves, and it really highlights our challenges. So by the way, in some ways, budgeting is super complicated. Nearly 700 million, multiple campuses, several academic colleges, several vice presidencies. Budgeting can be really difficult. On the other hand, it's really simple. Budgeting is about not spending more than the revenue that you bring in. And for the fiscal year that just ended, we spent $10 million more than the revenue that we brought in. And the simplest explanation for that is, as the state reduces support for the state universities, that means less revenue. Compounded by the fact that for about the last 6 or 7 years, we can raise tuition only on incoming in-state freshmen. And then you can't raise tuition on that group, nor room and board for the next 4 years. So when I started here in 2012, I think in 2012, Dr. Lefton announced a 2% increase in tuition. Well, that was 2% on 42,000 students. So you just do the math. Now, if we raise tuition 2%, it's on roughly 6,000 or 7,000 students. Kent freshmen, all our regional campus. Then you have inflation, and you can see why our expenses are growing faster than our revenue. So we'll have more on this in October, but I do want to say the following, just being completely transparent with you. When we look at the first 60 days of FY25, so all of July, all of August, we look into most of September, we continue to spend more than we bring in. So in other words, we're on track to have another deficit for FY25. We can't have another deficit in 25 for reasons I'm going to explain here in a minute. So because we are continue to spend more than we have in revenue, we're going to have to reduce expenditures. We're going to have to start doing that soon. Now, when I talk about reducing expenditures, I mean things like pushing off one-time projects to a later date. So for example, let's say, I'm making this up. Let's say we're scheduled to do a $1 million repaving of parking lots on the Kent campus this next summer. Well, we won't do that. We'll push that into the future because we've got to reduce our expenditures. Typically, universities engage in hiring freezes and travel freezes. Nothing's set in stone yet, but that's one place that you go to when you're trying to reduce expenditures. Unfortunately, I don't see how we're going to continue the meal swipes into spring. That's about a $500,000 a year program. Literally, I had lunch there yesterday, and I saw lots of employees at Eastway on the Kent campus. I don't think we're going to be able to do that. And yet, one thing that we will be able to do, in part because we're going to continue to reduce our expenditures, one thing that we will do, let me say this very clearly, on October 1st, we will pay our 2% raises to our non-represented employees. So we continue to pay the scheduled raises, even while we're going to have to reduce our expenses throughout the university. Look, I don't want that to get in the way of the great work that's happening at Kent State, but that's important stuff. I'll be back in October with a much more detailed conversation about our budgeting. Kudos to everybody for doing what you're doing to make us a more effective and efficient university. I said I would talk for 15 minutes. I actually talked for 18, and I apologize. And so when I get some questions up here, I'll do my best to answer them. And my guess is I'm going to see him here in just a minute. And I still don't see questions. And thank you again now to the 879 people. Aha, new posts. Okay, here they are. What are the plans of the former College of Business building? Well, our plan is to eventually take it down. It's not an efficient building. It was opened in the early 70s. It was added onto in the very early 90s, and it's not an efficient building. It's not a very, in terms of a design, it's not a very workable building. And so we're going to take it down. We are trying to get one-time funds, not just we, but all public universities in the state are requesting one-time funds so that we can get money to take down buildings. That will save us a lot. You know, think about it. You got to keep the lights on. You got to keep them safe and secure. You got to have some minimal amount of heating and cooling, and that costs us in expenditures to keep those buildings open. So we plan on bringing it down is the answer to that. Okay, next question. Can you speak to the vandalism on campus recently that is targeting LGBTQ plus students and community? How will the university be moving forward to secure their safety and belonging? So we sent out an email, I don't know, maybe a week ago. Someone had spray painted on one of our residence halls an anti-LGBTQ plus graffiti. That's an act of vandalism. It's now an active police investigation. So I don't want to speak too much about it because it's an ongoing police investigation. But look, this is an opportunity for us to say very clearly, our core value is kindness and respect. And spray painting anti-LGBTQ plus statements on a building, aside from being a criminal offense, is a complete failure on our part to live up to our kindness and respect. You know, as our former senior vice president for student life, Lamar Hilton, used to say, treat people like you want to be treated and treat people like they want to be treated. When we ask people, students, faculty, staff, why did you choose Kent State? And in fact, I had lunch with 20 or so student leaders today. And we asked them, why did you choose, or what's the best thing about Kent State? Almost without exception, every one of them said, we're a diverse and welcoming campus community, and that's what I found attractive about Kent State. So this vandalism, this spray painting on one of our residence halls is a reminder that we can always do better in kindness and respect. And as for securing safety, I mean, this is an active police investigation, and I think I'll stop there. But come on, folks, we can do better. Let's practice our kindness and respect. With all the talk of budget and options to save money, are there any plans in place to care for and preserve the Merrill Hall behind the Brain Place and other art on campus? The sandstone brain is looking neglected, and I'm guessing it hasn't been maintained for years. It's one of the treasures that should be preserved. With all the stress around us, the Brain Plaza is a place of peace and beauty. I would hate to see graffiti or weather damage it beyond repair. Thank you. Well, can I just say that on the King campus, the Brain Plaza is my favorite place on campus. So I couldn't agree with you more. It sounds like we have an opportunity to send our facilities folks over there to take a look at it. I love that, and I love the public art on our campus. And thank you for calling attention to its condition. Okay. Do you know when we will be told about major reorganization of colleges? Are you looking to sunset any programs? If so, when? So the other day, we have 886 people online right now. The other day, Provost Tankersley and her leadership held a town hall event on the internet that drew, I think she told me, over 900 people, where she walked through Transformation 28. And I think we have that archived someplace. I'll get you more of that information, or we'll make sure we send that out again. But I think the timeline that I understand that Provost Tankersley is working with is that we should have a plan announced, discussed, shared with, voted on with the faculty senate in February. So we'll know more in February would be the answer to your question. The meal swipes have been a nice gift to us during difficult times, but totally understand having to remove them. I'll continue to do a plan because the food service is amazing. Thank you, Dining Services. Yeah, agreed. Thank you, Dining Services. I love eating over there. I love seeing the students. I love seeing faculty. Thanks for that comment. Look, I don't want to stop this. And we probably should have stopped it for this whole year, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. So I appreciate that comment. Question is, will future fundraising go towards T28 concerns? Well, and T28, by the way, is Transformation 28, and Transformation 28 is the academic affairs project to reduce the number of our colleges, to become more effective and efficient, to operate in our new budget realities. And I would say to the person that asked the question that we already are addressing T28 with our fundraising priorities. If you think about what I just talked about in my opening remarks about the Forever Brighter campaign, a lot of those donations went to programs, to funding the activities that we'll be doing on this campus before and after the T28 transformation. Okay. You know, I'm gonna read this question and say, not really. I really can't answer it, but I know that Provost Tankersley and her team are doing this. The question is, are you able to speak to the work being done to increase enrollment in our fully online programs that have less of a need for physical plant resources, so we're not constrained by the number of students that can be housed on the campus? Well, let me say a couple of things from the way back when I was provost. So the last time I looked, and now this honestly was before COVID, we were the 13th largest provider of online student credit hours among public universities in the United States. So we already have a very robust program. I think the real change you're going to see now in online is we're bringing more and more of those programs in-house. So to get up to speed without having to cover the cost of the startup, we partnered with an online provider. We're now moving away from that in several of our programs, and that will then allow us to be more efficient in the provisioning of our online courses. I know this is a residential campus, but is there a way to allow more behind-the-scenes staff to work fully remote to assist with financial savings? Well, you know, I have so many mixed feelings about this because, yeah, I get it. Some people work behind the scenes and they want to work remotely. I totally get that. But, you know, we're a community. I mean, and community to me means more than just looking at someone on a screen. I don't have anything wrong about looking at someone on a screen because literally we're in the middle. All 889 of us are looking at me and talking with Todd using the internet. So I don't want to poo-poo that. But particularly on the Kent campus, I just think there's real importance for us to be together physically. I think that gives a different impression of the university when people come to visit. So I would say I don't see a way to expand in any dramatic fashion remote work. Okay. Do you have any updates on what Kent State is doing to retain current students throughout graduation and not just bringing in more students? So kudos to all of our faculty, kudos to our staff, to all those who are involved in teaching our students, feeding our students, housing our students, servicing their needs. And on the Kent campus, we had an 82% freshman to sophomore retention rate. It's the second highest in university history. I think we got to 82.2% right before COVID, and then we went down. So COVID really hurt us with retention from freshman to sophomore year. We've now built that back to 82%. If you look around at other public universities in Ohio, no one in Northern Ohio has anywhere near that retention rate. So kudos to the people that are doing that. Because we can't graduate you unless we retain you. Yeah, this is a good question. There's a lot of concern regarding the university's financial future. With the potential cutting of benefits and taking away the meal swipes, is there a plan to keep employee morale up? Yeah, you know, and I probably didn't do a good job of this today, but that's why that's why I wanted to begin with good news, because there's a lot of great things happening at Kent State. Our campuses, regional campuses, and our Kent campus continue to look fantastic, and that's important. particularly at Kent, it's important because that's how we draw students to our campus. It's that first impression that makes such a big difference. Uh, I always look forward to working with Dr. Gooden and our people, culture, and belonging because she and they have great plans about keeping employee morale up, and look forward to anytime we have announcements for that, I'll share them on a Talking with Todd. Wow, this is interesting. Can you encourage folks to have their students pledge to vote? Kent State University is number 6 in the nation right now. I did not know that, but I will say this, we're really working to help our students register. We had a voter registration fair here on the Kent campus on Richmond Plaza. It was a really festive event. Kudos to everybody that's helping us engage in our civic activities. Okay. I think I'm going to add one word here because I know what this question means, but I just want to make it clear to everyone. Assuming some private colleges will close, are we prepared to offer students opportunities to seamlessly transfer to Kent State University? This seems like a good place to increase numbers. Indeed, it is. And because of the closure of Eastern Gateway Community College in Steubenville, we did see a number of those students transfer, particularly to our regional campus, and a few to the Kent campus. In addition, Notre Dame College in suburban Cleveland closed, and several of those students transferred primarily to the Kent campus, but also to our regional campuses. So yes, indeed, kudos to enrollment management, Vice President Broghammer and his staff, because they really reached out, particularly to Notre Dame College, to make it a seamless transition to come to Kent State. Okay, I cannot answer this question. I just can't answer it, but I feel like I want to read it. I heard that Main Street is being redesigned for additional safety. So I'm not, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Sorry. Can KSU work with the city of Kent to create a bridge for crossing? Oh, sorry, I actually know what this is about. So this is in reference to, I think it starts in 2026 maybe, or 2025, working with the city of Kent, Kent State University, elected officials. We were able to obtain enough funding to rework Main Street roughly as it runs across our campus. And this will include putting in some traffic circles, making it more of a boulevard approach, making it easier for pedestrians to cross. There's not a bridge, but there will be much better pedestrian crossings, and it'll be a much calmer and safer environment for our students. So thanks for that question. I'm sorry I didn't read it correctly the first time. Okay. Okay, so let me take a cup of coffee, drink here. Are we removing any non-revenue generating sports teams to assist with budget concerns? Well, no, and let's talk about that. So we spend about $33 million a year out of $675 million on intercollegiate athletics. About 18 million of that comes from student fees and monies from the university itself. So that leads me to ask, why do we have intercollegiate athletics? I personally think of two main reasons for having intercollegiate athletics. One, it's an opportunity for us in large numbers to come together as a community. So there's really no other opportunity for thousands of us to get together to share our shared identity and to create that sense of community. And not just a sense of community outdoors, but in the winter, when the sun sets early in the day and it's dark, just being able to go to basketball games, feeling that energy, that's just good for our mental health. It's good for our community. That's one reason I favor having intercollegiate athletics. The second reason for me is that when you are around student athletes, you understand why they tend to be so successful in life after they graduate, because they have to learn and exercise time management skills. So those student athletes, we have roughly 400 on the Kent campus. I mean, they're doing their studies, and by the way, we've never had better team GPAs ever at Kent State. Very proud of that. And then they're mixing that with their going to class and with their training practices. And after they graduate, they are just really great representatives for Kent State, and while they're here as well. Honestly, the challenge is that nationally, the cost for intercollegiate athletics continues to grow. I don't have great answers for that. I'm just telling you why I think we should have intercollegiate athletics. Okay, can the regional campuses get the voting T-shirts to share with our students, faculty, and staff? I don't know, because I don't know if we have any left. But of course, all your regional deans are always empowered to create their own, what we call presidential swag here, and are always empowered to do that on each of their campuses. Is offering a this is an important question, so I'm going to read this slowly because I want to answer it clearly. Is offering a voluntary separation agreement cost prohibitive? Or do you believe it would ultimately save money through reduced benefits cost and increased availability of campus space? Here's the deal. We've done this 4 times. So in the last 5 or 6 years, we've had 4 separate voluntary separations. And the idea behind a voluntary separation is you have a one-time cost, but it's a damn big one-time cost. But then because you have fewer employees, you save in the long term. We do not have the reserves anymore to cover the one-time costs, and there will not be any more voluntary separation plans. We did 4. We made it very clear the advantages and the plan for each one of those 4. Many people took one of those 4 separation plans. We do no longer have the reserves to pay the one-time cost for voluntary separation plans. I appreciate that question. Sorry if my answer seems too direct, but it's important. I just want to make clear where we are on that. Well, I don't know about this assertion here, so I'm going to read the question and I'll do my best to answer it, but I just don't know that the assertion is correct. It may be correct, I don't know. Has Kent State University considered going to a shortened work week like Akron did, having no one on campus 1 day a week to reduce costs? I just don't know that that's what Akron's doing. No, the answer is no. Look, remember earlier when I said that when we talk particularly to our students about why they choose Kent State, it's this amazing sense of community. And that amazing sense of community happens when we are together in person. It's the secret to why we are doing as well as we're doing, particularly on the Kent campus with enrollment. But thank you for asking for that question. Todd, you mentioned that we would get a 2% increase, but this article says that we're getting 1.5. And boy, I thought it was 2, but if it's not 2, Mark Politico is going to come running in here and break down my door with an axe and tell me. But I was almost certain. So can somebody text me or call me and tell me that that's what it is? Because oh yeah, I see where it says 1.5. I hope I didn't get that wrong. If I did, and I don't see a text yet, but Mark Politico is probably texting me as we speak. So I'll get back to you on that. Thanks for pointing that out. I really appreciate it. Boy, I just got 2%. Whew. Thank you. It is 2%. So the article is incorrect. Thank you. All right. My kiddo is a current student, and while improvements are needed, she always feels safe on campus and loves her experience. Shout out to the student-facing staff that work long hours to make the campus what it is. Whoa, I could not agree more with you on that. You know, I realize that I'm now in my 37th year of being in higher education. And sorry, I'm getting a million texts on this. So let me just make sure what this text says. Oh, 1.5 has to do with minimum pay scales. That's a different thing. That's totally different. But yes, we're getting a 2% increase. Okay, back to the shout out. Yeah, and I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm turning my head here because I'm looking out on our campus and it is so stinking beautiful. And I see students out walking, a lot of students on Richmond Plaza. We got something really good going on here, folks. And I know that I have to come on at a Talking with Todd and talk to you about budget things, but just know that our goal with the budget is to have that soft landing so that we continue to do these great things, and we will continue to do these great things even while we do not have deficits and even while we address our financial challenges. All of the good things that happen here are exactly for that. The student-facing staff that work long hours. Amen to that. Thank you for that kind question and comment. Is that a mini fridge under your desk or a safe? You know, it's funny you asked that because today when we were getting ready, I was like, I wonder what people will think that is. It's actually a mini fridge. Usually it's empty, but it's a mini fridge. Okay. Given the university's financial outlook, will the tuition waiver still be offered? Yes, we don't have any plans to eliminate the tuition offer. We just have to see in the future if we can continue to afford as a university the same level of benefits that we pay now. You know, it's, as I said earlier, super complicated, not complicated at all. Super complicated, but just think of it as a gigantic jigsaw puzzle. But I got to have the jigsaw puzzle make a coherent whole. So what I know is I can't run deficits. Once you start running deficits, you burn up your reserves. You start into a spiral, not a good thing. We're not going to do that. To avoid deficits, we just have to decide if we spend here, then we're going to have to reduce expenditures there. So we'll continue to review our benefits. We have a consultant working with us to compare our benefits with similar institutions. We'll continue to review those. I personally don't see a future where we don't have a tuition benefit. I do see a future where we might make it more a less generous one or more based on income. Because honestly, right now, my son, who's a PhD student at another university, if he came to Kent State, I would pay no tuition. Well, guess what? I make a very good salary. It's ridiculous that I wouldn't have to pay for his tuition. So we need to start thinking at least about an income level for full tuition benefit. Thanks for that question. Will the university continue to have a winter break this year? I think you mean by that week off with pay? Yes, we will. Okay, so the next question is, can I share a series of announcements? Guess what? That came from one of the staff. So so I'm going to finish up today. And by the way, I'm not going to get to everyone's questions. Really, I don't think I can express enough how much I appreciate that 878 of you are with me today. And as I finish up today with these announcements, let me just thank each and every one of you for what you do for Kent State. I'm not just saying that. I hope you know that I mean that. And if I see you in person, and if I don't know you, tell me what you do, and I'll tell you that in person. Okay, so some important announcements as we finish up. We have an engagement and well-being survey that's out. We really want everyone in our community to answer this survey, and I believe it's in the chat feature. although I don't see it in the chat feature, but we'll communicate about the engagement and well-being services survey. Second announcement is the new edition of the Kent State magazine, and it looks really great. It's interactive. It features articles with several people that are near and dear to our hearts at Kent State University. Willard Jenkins won the National Endowment for the Arts Jazz Journalist of the Year Award. And Willard is a 1970s era graduate of Kent State. He's the artistic director of the DC Jazz Festival. He's from Cleveland, and he's really great. And somebody just told me that the Kent State Magazine link is in the Q&A tab, so look at it there. And the Engagement and Wellbeing Survey is also in the Q&A link, so make sure you look at those. Finally, homecoming. Remember when I talked about intercollegiate athletics and bringing us together as a community? Let's get together as a community for homecoming. We have the inauguration of Crawford Hall with guided tours tomorrow at 2 p.m. Last I heard, we had 800 reservations for the inauguration. And again, there'll be guided tours. If you've not been in that building, here's my opinion. It looks great from the outside. It is amazing, as President Lefton used to say, amazing inside. Please attend to the parade. And so until October, thanks to everyone for what you do. Go Flashes, and I'll see you at homecoming. See you, everyone.